I'm excited.
All right. Well, Michelle's first in line.
Hi, Michelle.
That's how it works.
I love
here
when
on
Michelle shows up.
the show of the backpacks. Someone let me know that this is American Thanksgiving week. And I know that we normally
Someone that you know.
we only normally celebrate the holidays of Guam, but I thought maybe we'd just make a point to say that, hey, happy American Thanksgiving week for those.
Yes. Happy Thursday to everyone else when we get there.
Yeah. Don't start the show like that. Happy Thursday.
I know that's very confusing. I had a roommate in college who was from Dominican Republic, and she was like, I don't know what the big deal is. But I'm like, you get a couple days off. Why do you care?
Doesn't matter. It's all good.
Yeah, fine.
Well, it's going to be quieter days, I think, on the Backpack Show, but that doesn't mean we can't have.
I don't think so. I disagree. This is like a supercharged, high-powered day. This is probably my favorite Monday ever.
Well, you know what we will get is we'll get all the people that try to sneak the show at work. You know what I mean? They'll be at their houses, just like escaping their families. So, I think that'll be a thing. Who do we have today? We have some guests, I think.
Kevin Carroll. He's an author. He's an instigator of inspiration and a creative catalyst. He's worked with brands, like crazy brands that you've definitely heard of. And he's written, like all the brands, all the important brands, like brands like Disney, like universally known and loved brands, to help them become more innovative and creative. And he's also the author of 4 highly successful books published by ESPN, Disney Press, McGraw-Hill, and a kid's book about. So I have this one, a kid's book about belonging that he wrote, and he's got a copy with him. So we'll get a little look at that today. But I asked Kevin because his personal story is incredibly inspirational. He's not just successful in his own right, like he lifts others up. And that's what we're all about on the Backpack Show. So I had to ask him. We're also going to talk with Kimberly Dawn, who is a country singer-songwriter from Canada. She's currently in LA. She's amazing. She put her musical aspirations on hold to stay at home with 4 kids. And she launched her career. Like, she's still raising 4 kids, by the way. It's not like, oh, they're all set now. Like, she's still doing it. Yeah. And she's launching her career as a singer-songwriter. So I think that's amazing too. So I'm excited about today, and I'm never excited about Mondays usually.
And rumor is that at least Kimberly Dawn is going to sing, possibly Kevin Carroll as well.
Do you think?
No.
Yeah,
Backpack Show.
Both your parents are here.
People here. My father.
Leslie's here.
Leslie's here.
Jane.
Carol. Carol, we brought you a Canadian today.
Coach Woodard, we brought you a Canadian.
we found her out there. Oh, Sue's here. Sue's also Canadian, and Sue's a musician herself and a singer. So
so this is gonna be fun.
It's gonna be a big show.
I'm all kinds of excited.
So first time I ever got crossed paths with Kevin, it was in his first book, with his big red rubber ball and all that. And oh my gosh, not only did I get marketed to, like, in massive marketing, but like all of a sudden, all at once, everybody I knew was like, have you read that book? Have you read that book? Have you read that book? So it was like, all right, shut up. Like, it's a good book, but like there's other books, and it just wasn't allowed.
So he gave a TEDx talk that I watched, and it's all about play. And it was unlike any other TEDx talk I had ever seen. Like, you expect, what is it, 10 minutes of like really compressed, wisdom, blah, blah, blah. But his was like razzle dazzle and wisdom. Like, he packaged it up. You talk about packaging a lot. So he had a soundtrack for it, and he had like a scroll, like you would have if the king made a decree or something. You have a scroll, and he read it. It was amazing.
It's going to be a toughie. It's going to be a toughie. Let's drag Kevin on. Everybody's here. My gosh, I thought nobody would be here. Everybody's here.
On Monday?
Yeah, Deborah.
This is the day that you pretend. This is the day that you pretend to work. If you're going to celebrate American Thanksgiving later, you're like, I'm totally working, like early in the week.
I'm going to keep calling it American Thanksgiving forevermore.
Okay.
Just because Canadian Thanksgiving. Anyway, hi, Kevin.
Hey, what's happening? What's happening, Chris? Hey, Kerry.
Hi. Thanks for coming. I know it's early there.
Absolutely. I have to say, you already made a mention of Guam. My wife's father's from Guam, so that made me laugh.
Nice.
Yes. And then razzle dazzle. How often do you hear that word used? Razzle dazzle.
Yep.
Well done, Kerry.
Thank you.
And the fact that the red ball has been bouncing in your dome for a while, Chris. I love that. That it's been, I've been mind freaking you, man. I've been mind freaking.
Susan's 50th birthday week.
Brilliant.
Happy birthday, Susan. You know what you should get for your birthday is a copy of A Kid's Book About Belonging by Kevin Carroll.
Everybody needs a hype lady. I appreciate you, Kerry.
You're welcome. I don't get to say razzle dazzle all that often. You know, I try to work it into regular conversations and it just doesn't work.
The only time I can ever think of it is book out Ducks, but I still rock Nike with the razzle dazzle. A star I might be. Come on. That's
Nailed it.
Here we are.
Like Monday. Look at Monday. Monday going like that. I love it.
I see. That's what I'm saying. This is my favorite Monday. So I saw Kevin most recently present at the Marketing Profs B2B Forum. He was like the last thing. And you do not expect to cry at a B2B marketing conference.
No.
But man, everybody was just like waterworks. And because your personal story is just incredible, like your origin story. So Coach Woodard, who's here and joins us as often as he can, I love him, but he always encourages us to go looking for the origin story. And I think we have to start there. If you're
we all have an origin story, right? I mean, everyone has their story. And I tell everyone that mine is addiction and abandonment, disappointment and dysfunction, upheaval and uncertainty. And that's been my story from my childhood. Both my parents were addicts and they abandoned me and my two brothers. So the three of us had to figure out how to navigate our life. And my grandparents stepped in and did the best they could, but we had to basically raise ourselves. And so a ball, the playground, books, the public library and school, and Betterment, this crazy community of people poured into me. And I found a way to navigate through all that, uncertainty and upheaval, and to find a way to rise above my suffering and circumstances. So my whole attitude was, I'm not going to be a victim. I'm going to be a fighter.
Mm-hmm. What you talked about that I remember is how kind like your teacher was to you and really took you in and lifted you up, and the way that you took lessons from people. Like the Backpack Show is all about finding inspiration for business success from unusual places, by which we mean like not the usual kind of podcast business guests that you see all the time. Man, did you do that right? All over your childhood.
Yeah. I mean, when you think about the people that I'm a mosaic of, I like to say, of many people, from drug dealers and users, to war veterans, to workers, to parents of my friends. My best friend's mom was basically the most important person in my life. I call her my CEO, my chief encouragement officer of my dreams. So Miss Lane, 46 years, she just passed away 5-6 years ago now. And she was with me for 46 years. And I always tell Kerry, you know this about me already, right? That I'm well preserved. I tell people, right? I'm the Black Benjamin Button, right? So I just had my 62nd birthday. So I'm 62 years young. So there's also something. Yeah, Chris, that's what's up.
Oh my God.
You thought I had a red ball, but I also got some Forever Young lotion for you too, dude. I'm gonna get that to you. I'm gonna get that to you. But one of the things I discovered was, all these lessons that are available to you, they're all available to you if you remain curious. And I was a very curious kid, and I think it served me well. And I continue to actively practice curiosity on a daily basis, even, well into my adulthood, and it served me well.
I was just thinking a really negative, bad thought that the world wants you down. The world really wants you down is what
Absolutely.
Now that's a perspective. I mean, that's a way to think of the world. But one, do you see that? And so that your energy is what you have to fight to get where you're going? Or am I wrong? The world doesn't want you down. How do you talk to people about that?
No, man, I think you're spot on. Haters are my motivators. That's my attitude about that. Like, there were social workers that checked on us and they basically said, Mr. and Mrs. Carroll, talking to my grandparents, look what they come from. Do the best you can, but we're not expecting much. Can you imagine hearing that, in your childhood? You're overhearing adults talk about you like that. So my attitude is, I'll show you, you watch. And that's where I got that notion that I'm going to figure out a way. And so I started rallying people, right? But I did it through my actions. I showed people I was about something. I wasn't just running my mouth, that I cared and I wanted to be better. And I think that really served me well. And I think, yes, people want the best for you, but there's also people who basically will write you off based on your origin story, where you came from. I grew up at a time when your zip code and your address would actually dictate what was going to happen to you. Like basically they had already written out your journey based on where you grew up. So there were a lot of things tugging at me that would have allowed me to easily surrender. And I said, no, I'm not about that. I'm not doing that. And I think that was what served me really well. But there were also people who recognized I was fighting for it, right? I was really trying to get to something. And I think that's the one thing that people have to do is, how are you consistently showing up the same way so that people see you're about it? And then they want to like, hey, you know what? I seen you. Let me help you out. And I think that's what we want to do, is get people to rally around our hopes, our dreams, our aspirations.
You know, people going based on zip code were suckered because I grew up in a really rich town. I did not live on the rich side of town.
Mm-hmm.
I lived on the second home side of town, but it was our first and only home. So for all you, Gary says my English teacher once invited me to watch him play Shylock in a Shakespeare play one night, and that really boosted my interest in literature and the theater. Wow.
So Gary's also a West Coaster. So you know, all the early crew is here to catch up with all you people who are, you know, getting up way earlier than they need to.
I did Shakespeare as a kid. I did Midsummer Night's Dream. I was Francis Flute the Bellows Mender, dude. I still remember those lines.
They never leave you. Is it amazing how you can't remember the name of somebody you met like 2 minutes ago at a networking thing, but you remember that? Like,
yeah, but you remember that. Those are those moments and memories, right, that really get embedded. And to Gary's point, they help shape you. They really do. That was my first experience being on a stage. Sports was the other thing. And I enjoyed performing. Like, I really enjoyed it. And I think that I got encouraged by Miss Lane and some teachers. And so, yeah, so when I saw that Shakespeare reference, I wanted to make sure I gave a shout out to that. Yeah. So, yes, Francis, I was also singer Thisbe. So you have two roles, Francis Flute the Bellows Mender and Thisbe. So I had to literally dress in drag, right? And we put on, the underlings are putting on a play for the aristocrats, right? For the wealthy. And so it's a, you know, it's literally just a hot mess, right? The whole thing, but that's the fun part of it. But I still remember that play.
I remember words from musicals I did when I was 17, and I don't know why they're taking up space in there. Carroll points out not everybody has that reaction to being written off, that I'll show you reaction. It speaks volumes about you. Of course, I'm like the two of you and Chris, like little peas in a pod. Like, you're not the boss of me. You don't say what happens to me. I'm like,
I was thinking about that while you were talking, especially when you said about listening to adults talk about, you know, your education, all that. I was thinking about Les Brown, who you probably know, the other motivational speaker out there in the world. His thing was, he was labeled educably mentally retarded, which doesn't exist as a label anymore. But when he was coming up, that's what it was. And he said, oh, well, I guess I don't have to try that hard. And so he really wore that label for a while until a teacher came along and said, you know, you don't have to be that. Like, you know, someone else said that's you. Did you think that's you? Did you feel like you needed to pick that up? So it's just interesting that theme of other people trying to decide your fate, and how many people just took it and how many people went with it. I want to make a bit of a shift, though, which is from the books. So your first book, your very famous, very popular book, Red Rubber Ball and all that, was all about getting people's creativity and excitement up and all that sort of thing. And I think a very motivational book. Your book about belonging and your kids' book series, that shift to do kids' books after having done that successful book, that's an interesting business idea. That's an interesting thought to say, I'm going to do this right now, even though I already did that. Like, can you talk about that twist?
That twist, or that pivot, if you will, actually wasn't planned. It was because of a relationship. So Kerry actually alluded to this. You know, my connections to people are long lasting, and out of necessity, I learned that from my youth, right? That being connected to people mattered to me because I didn't have a family unit like most people did, right? So I was always about building community and relationships. So that, you know, move out here to Portland, Oregon 23 years ago. My son rides his bike down the end of the block, comes back 15 minutes later. We had just moved into the house, comes back with this kid, Jelani. And Jelani's 13 years old, like my son. I've known Jelani 23 years now. Jelani is the co-founder of this book series, a kid's book about. And the first book he wrote actually is this one, a kid's book about racism. And it was in response to a question from his stepson. What's racism? So Jelani cobbles together this book, does an on-demand publishing thing, does this thing with his son, and then starts socializing this book with adults. And he says, what do you think about this, Kevin? And I've known him for a long, long time. And I said, Jelani, that's brilliant. He said, I think I'm going to start a book series. Would you be the first author we work with? We want to disrupt the kids' book industry by getting the books done sooner, but having books that are titled around conversations that kids want to have with adults. And so that's where the kids' book about belonging actually came from. It wasn't a planned thing. It was actually, I was supporting Jelani, and fast forward, right? Some of the topics are amazing: depression, anxiety, gratitude, money, creativity, belonging, racism, empathy. I believe there's over 20 plus titles now. But what's amazing, all different authors, all with an expertise. And proudly, I'd like to say Oprah just selected a kids' book about series as one of her favorite things for the holidays. So that's a big shout out opportunity. And I talk to Jelani all the time. And so she selected 10 books, and mine was one of the 10 books, the belonging book. But one of the things that I started to understand really quickly was the power of the books, not just for kids, that adults need to know how to belong, right? How to deal with anxiety, how to deal with depression. But sometimes, the loudest messages are simple. And I think kids' books can always serve you well that way. And so that's how that whole, my shift to doing a kids' book actually happened, was supporting, someone I've known for 23 years.
That's big. Jen Crompton kind of reinforced our point about people giving you names that you did or didn't want. She said, I had a student who said that she was a bad writer, and I asked her why. And she said, because my teacher in high school told me that I wasn't good at writing. And so, of course, she wore that, and she wasn't. She just needed the encouragement.
Yeah. And that's what Miss Lane served, so many times as that CEO. Like I said, my chief encouragement officer, she would always say, why not? And then she would say, but I'm going to check to see what you do with that hope, that dream, that aspiration, that idea. Don't talk about it, be about it. And so she created accountability. I realized that you needed someone holding you accountable for your idea. And most importantly, that action was the secret ingredient to manifesting things. Do something about it, right? Don't be just running your mouth. And so that shifted everything for me, quite honestly. Encouragement, accountability, and then recognizing that action was really important.
Can you give us just a little bit of the book before we shift over?
Sure. I'll read a few pages for you here.
Yay. All right, everybody, pull your chairs up.
Story time.
Story time with Kevin Carroll.
Who knew that we're going to have story time right here, right?
The KC Katalyst.
What does it mean to belong? It's difficult to come up with a simple answer, but each of us, kid and grown up, is hoping every day to belong somewhere. While belonging can be tough to describe, we all know the benefits. Belonging to a community or others improves your health, happiness, and motivation. When you belong, you realize you are not alone. Having a connection to others helps you understand that all of us can have good times, but struggle too. There is comfort in knowing we all have this in common. To building community and sense of belonging and be comfortable in our own skin is a lifelong endeavor. This book wants to help you on the journey, your journey, because belonging starts with you.
I love the fact that this is a kid's book that has words like endeavor in it.
Come on now.
You didn't dumb it down at all.
Could have used some razzle dazzle.
I know. That's what I missed out on.
Next time, right? Do you get to pick your topic? You go through a list and you're like, don't want to talk about that. Don't want to write about that. Don't want to. And then you're like, this one.
I might do a kid's book about razzle dazzle. That might be the next one.
That's the concept, like packaging, Chris. Chris is always saying, you got to package your ideas,
Well, that is exactly the packaging. Kevin Carroll, we could ask you 8,000 more questions and not get to the bottom of what we want. Such love. Thank you so much. Stick around if you can. We'll have some more stuff for you after.
I'd love to. Thanks for having me.
So good. Stick around. Listen, we got Kimberly Dawn coming on to sing songs to you and everything. Country performer, just doing amazing stuff, and raised all these kids that had a big old life.
Well, there is raising. Currently.
Raising.
Your dad's talking about his penmanship that you learned in the 4th and 5th grade.
My dad thought that he said that there was a metal block in his wrist, and that's why he had bad penmanship. That he had a metal block in his wrist is what he heard. Turned out he was fine. It was a mental block. So he said, I didn't have to
you wouldn't know?
Dad
Brogan?
No. My dad spent a lot of years thinking that it was apples and oranges. So.
I don't go through no x-ray machine at the airport.
a comfort in knowing that we all have this in common. Just in that excerpt, there's stuff that I've had to relearn in therapy as an adult. Exactly. And this book is way less expensive than therapy. I did a little bit of a survey. You can buy a kid's book about belonging for a lot less than even one session.
As a parent, we always learn along with our kids. That's what I think is so great about this. So you read the book with your kids, you're learning along with them.
And we're going to grab Kimberly Dawn after our ads. But listen, wow, when Oprah shines a light, I'm clicking the button on what you've done. You shared that earlier. I just want to reshare it because Oprah, the big O. So anyway, so glad. All right, I got to hit some buttons and do some things.
I'm not hitting them because you just said.
I know, don't touch some things.
Okay.
All right, look, if you want to make your own show, you could have the Kevin Carroll show. I would watch that show so much. And Joseph Jaffe swung by a little earlier. We didn't get to say hi directly, but hi, Joseph. He streams. He uses StreamYard. You can go to cbrogan.me/StreamYard. You can make your own show. He has Corona TV. Will it get renamed? We don't know.
Oh, I sort of hope so, right?
Yeah, it'd be nice to not have to think about the downside.
Yes.
And Joseph's show has nothing to do with that. It just was birthed out of this moment. And it's another show made on StreamYard. It's an incredible show, so worth it. And more of our friends are making these shows. It is so easy to do. cbrogan.me/StreamYard. That's why you use this tool. That's the only reason why.
It's super easy. People used to ask me to run their shows. I'm like, you don't need me. You just need StreamYard.
You know what's not easy? Making a website. Authors, you think it is, people think it is, but authors, you go out and you look at a Wix, you look at a Weebly, you think about WordPress for 5 seconds. You're like,
WordPress gives me a headache.
You just say, never mind. WordPress, I just call it basically plug-in updates because that's what I do over there.
Yes. So here's what I love about PubSite. The FSB Associates firm that publicizes books, they've been in the business for 25 years. They are amazing. They had authors trying to go get a website and spending thousands of dollars for like a crummy website. And they're like, this is crazy. We need to help them. So now they created PubSite. So they got into the business, not because they wanted to, but because this was a service that authors needed. And it's so crazy easy to use it. You can build your own website, even if you're totally not techie. All the pieces that authors need to promote themselves and their books, all built in. Crazy easy.
It's super expensive. You should know that up front.
It is not. There's a 14-day free trial. After that, it's $19.99 a month if you want to put it together yourself. If you don't want to put it together yourself, because it's very customizable, like you can choose your colors, you can choose all sorts of things. If that's not what you're about, they'll do it for you. For $499, they will build you an amazing website that's stupid easy to update.
Or get in touch with me, and I will charge you $2,000 to do the website, and I will pay them $499 and keep the $1,500.
I feel like that doesn't make sense.
That would not make sense. But
no, just go to pub-site.com. It's super easy, and you need a website.
We do. Someone does.
Chip says he uses a plugin to update plugins.
Oh, what is this? Robots to make robots?
And your dad's joking. There were airports back then, like back when he was little. I'm pretty sure. Had the Wright brothers flown?
Prop planes, maybe.
I don't know. You know what? I mean, Kevin will still be looking good. Like whenever we have hover cars and rocket ships and stuff.
This is a weird segue, but you know how you just said there were airports back then and whatnot. One of the jokes about country music is Canadian country music. For a really long time, there just wasn't any. Because you'd have to, in Canadian law, there's a rule that you have to play 50% Canadian content and 50% American content. So on country stations, what they would do is they'd play all the Canadian country music they had. And in the second hour, they'd play, for the next 23 hours, they'd play all the American country music because it was just that way. It was, you couldn't stuff enough Canadian country music into a bag, but that's changed a little. No, I'm just saying it was not a big marketplace for country music for a while. And so people like Kimberly Dawn show up and now we have something here. So I'll hit this button. I'll hit this button. Aha, you hit the button.
Hire someone to run a show and hit buttons for you, Chris. You have to let them hit the buttons.
You hit the button. Hi,
Hello,
Kimberly Dawn.
Good morning. How are you, Kerry? How are you, Chris?
So good. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Talk to me about your musical aspirations, because that's one of those things I think deep down you either are a singer, songwriter, or you're not. Like people go out and try to kind of learn the craft, but the love for it has to be in you. So did you have that like from a young age? And at what point did you decide you had to put that on hold?
You know what? I did have it with me from a young age. So I grew up in a really small town in Alberta, Canada, population of like 1,000 people. I don't even think there's 1,000 people left in the town now, but I grew up on a farm and, you have to be creative. I mean, very different today, right? We have our cell phones. There's 50 million different channels you can watch on TV. Me, I was outside. I was a daydreamer. I'd be playing outside. So when I would listen to music, if I'd be in the house listening to music, that kind of brought me into like a whole different world. Like I felt like it was, wow, I could just be anything I wanted to be. I don't know how to explain that. It was just music, just because I'd listen to all different genres too. So growing up, my mom, you know, she loved music too. So she introduced me to, you name it, Neil Sedaka, to Paul Anka, to I listened to the Supremes. I mean, I listened to so many different genres of music. Oh, and Elvis Presley. I actually know every single probably Elvis song. I've watched every Elvis movie because my mom was obsessed with Elvis Presley. So, which is a good thing, you know, I love Elvis.
Yeah.
So I would say, you know, listening to music, I always listen to lyrics, which is really interesting. I didn't know that. As you know, looking back as a young child, I don't think I realized I listened to lyrics, but I would listen to the lyrics and memorize those songs and break those songs down to try to understand what they meant at a young age. And to this day, I still am that way. And it's funny because my husband, I'll say, oh my gosh, did you hear the lyric of this song? That's a great lyric. Do you know what this song means? He's like, Kim, I don't listen to the lyrics. He doesn't listen to lyrics. He listens to the beat.
My husband didn't either, and I got really offended. Like when we were dating like a gazillion years ago, he would send me a song. I'd be like, what the F? Because if you listen to the lyrics, it's really bad. And he's like, what? It's just a cool song. I thought you'd like it. I'm like, you moron.
I was that way too when he was playing Eminem for my 3-year-old, and my 3-year-old would walk in the house and he's replaying saying the language. I'm like, what are you playing for our son? He's like, I thought the song was cool, the beat. I'm like, he's using the F word now. Thanks.
He's like, the what? I got
same.
so good. I would turn it down like at that point in the song if there was one bad word in it. Like, yeah, I'd be like I was so good on that button. Right. I was not going to listen to Kids Bop. That was a hard no.
No Kids Bop in the house.
Yeah,
Kimberly, when we introduced you, I teased about country music, the state of country music in Canada. Reasonably accurate for my age. I'm 50. You know, but is it still? Is there? Who's up there?
You know what, there's a lot of, it's so interesting. So growing up, my little town was about 45 minutes from a place called Medicine Hat, Alberta. And there was a country star that had moved. She's from Medicine Hat. She moved to Nashville. Her name was Terry Clark. I don't know if you guys know who that is.
No.
But she became a huge country star down in Nashville. And I was like, wow, she's from Alberta. She's like, you know, she made it. Well, she moved to Nashville and, you know, but she's still Canadian. So I know that they played her music up there, but you didn't hear a lot of Canadian artists on country radio growing up. It was, you heard Shania Twain, you know, she's a fellow.
That's the one name I could come up with.
Yeah, she's a fellow Canadian, but now there's a lot, there's so many. And actually what's funny is a lot from Alberta have moved down to Nashville now. And they're like all, you know, you got Tennille Arts, Tennille Towns. Tennille Towns, I think, is from Saskatchewan, though. I mean, I could name a ton of them, but they
Chris will do it all day.
They do have to play a certain percentage of Canadian artists up there, which I love because I'm still Canadian. So.
But so if you had this love in you, what made you kind of put it away for a while?
Well, you know what? So, like I said, I grew up singing in church. When I was almost 19, I guess I was about 19, I moved out to LA, and I knew that I wanted to continue to pursue music. I was also kind of doing the acting thing, but that kind of dwindled away, and the love for music just stayed. I got married really young. Had all my kids by the time I was 30. And it was like, okay, I have 4 kids, all these like little kids. And I was like, but I'm missing something. I felt like, you know, I loved being a mom. I loved being with my kids, but I was missing something. I felt like I was missing something within myself. And I woke up one morning and I was like, you know what? I need to go back to who I was. I was somebody before I was married. I was somebody before I was a mom. What are those things that I'm passionate about? And I say that to women today, and I say it to my daughters. I say it to, young adults. Always stay true to who you are. And when you have those passions, it's never too late to continue to pursue those passions. And so I literally I woke up one day and I said to my husband, you know what? I really miss music. I'm going to start taking some piano lessons. I just want to get back into the groove with some music. So I started taking piano lessons, and then I met a producer, and I honestly, I was going to make a kids album. That's what I was going to do. I was like, you know what? I'm going to do like a little children's album.
Musical, Kevin.
Exactly. And I was like, I'm going to make all these like songs for kids, and then my children can hear my voice, and they'll have that. Well, it actually turned into, I wrote a whole like pop album. Yeah.
So you sat down to write it and you were just like, that's just not what came to you.
Yeah, it's kind of like the producer, the one thing that I got out of this producer, the one good thing that I got out of him is he said, you're going to write your own songs. And I said, I don't know how to write. He's like, yeah, you do. And you know what? I actually did know how to write. I just didn't know I knew how to write. Do you know what I'm saying? You're thinking, how do you write a song? I don't know. That seems too technical. Too much. But he really did. He put me with a couple writers, and we would just pen out these songs. And, I found another love that I had, which is writing, and I love it. It's very therapeutic, by the way.
It's amazing to see it in this particular format as well, because there's one thing about writing, there's another about writing a song, where the requirement of the words needs to be so sparse. You have to really pick the right word. You can't just sort of fuss around like you do if you write a longer book. There is a rumor that you might have been willing to perform a little for us, sing a little bit for us. So we thought we might ask if you'd sing.
I would love to sing for you guys. Thank
you.
Woo!
All right,
best Monday ever.
You set you up. Everybody's chitty chatting. We see all that. Hi, Mike McCallan. Hi, Shania Twain is Canadian. Yes, that was the. Yep. A lot of good stuff in here. Do you prefer to write songs? Well, here's one question right before you sing. Do you prefer to write songs by yourself or with other people? Some people like to collab because of vulnerability. What's your preference?
You know what? I actually, I like to write with other people. I always have, I have books in my house where I write ideas down and I'll start writing songs. But it's cool to actually collaborate with others, because you're kind of throwing ideas off of each other. And those have been some of my greatest songs. I can come up with an idea and start writing. I can say, okay, this is an idea I have. And then all of a sudden, both of you are throwing out these ideas, and all of a sudden this song is born. So.
Well, right, because once you do it that way, you could stop, you could collaborate, and then listen.
You shut up.
All right.
That was good.
Thank you. That's all I do. All right, you make your music, so I'm going to push this button so you can be bigger.
Great. Okay, guys, this is actually my latest single right now that I have out right now. It's called 93. I wish I had a time machine, instead of staring at this iPhone screen. Take me back to another day, another time, another place. Friday nights at the Texaco, meet there, then we hit the road. Pull over when we find a spot, empty parking lot, maybe smoke some pot. Or not. Give me some of that 93. Give me some of that wild and free. We measure time by the radio when you gotta get home to watch your favorite show and get back to the simple things. I can hear that old telephone ring. It's calling me back to Polaroids and throwing on old corduroys. And I don't know about you where you wanna be, but I miss me in 93. These days keep wearing me out. All this noise is a bit too loud. Wanna get a little out of touch, unplug and just get a 90s rush and give me some of that 93. Give me some of that wild and free. We measure time by the radio. When you gotta get home to watch your favorite show and get back to the simple things. I can hear that old telephone ring. It's pulling me back to Polaroids and throwing on old corduroys. And I don't know about you, where you wanna be, but I miss me in 93. Maybe you're a hippie from the 60s, or a baby of the 80s. I'm sure you can relate. So let's put on that mixtape and go back to the good old days. Give me some of that 93. Give me some of that wild and free. We measure time by the radio. When you gotta get home to watch your favorite show and get back to the simple things. I can hear that old telephone ring. It's calling me back to Polaroids and throwing on old corduroys. And I don't know about you, where you wanna be. I don't know about you, where you wanna be, but I miss me in 93. Me in 93. Ooh.
Wow.
Woo!
Thank you so much. This
Tried
is officially my best Monday ever. I
Doing
love
two
it.
buttons at the
So
same
much,
time. Here.
guys.
Wow. So that's interesting.
like
Now,
And it's so early where you are. Like, so early.
It's early. I told my husband last night, I'm like, yep, I have an early call tomorrow. He's like, wow, that's early. I said, yep.
especially musician early. This
Yes.
is still last night for most musicians. So
Yes. So where do you get your ideas for songs? Like when you even when you collaborate, when you write by yourself, like what inspires you?
You know what? So many things inspire me. That particular song, I'll just tell you, I grew up listening to 90s country music and I always loved it. So when I went into the writing session for that, I already told them, I said, I want to write a song about the 90s. I want to have a throwback that reminds me about, growing up listening to that music and just how life was in the 90s. Very different. We didn't have the cell phones. We didn't have, I don't know. I mean, literally, I would be out driving tractor for my dad and I kind of say, oh, it's kind of getting dark. I wonder what time it is. Really didn't wear a watch either. There really wasn't. I could tell what time it was by, Different Strokes is on. You remember that show, you guys?
sure.
I'm just saying. I'm like I'm dating.
I just told my kid like yesterday that there were black and white TVs. And this is the sentence that went with. I said, I played my brother's Atari on a black and white TV. And then I had to turn to my son and say Atari was a game system. And there used to be black and white TVs.
Yeah. It
was one of those moments.
Yeah, it's a different day. Yeah, so I get ideas, I definitely write about my life. There's definitely songs that I write about things in my life. Someone can tell me a story that might end up in a song. Many times it has. So I can take other people's stories and kind of make them, a song. Because with country music, and this is why I love it, I think so much, it's a story, and it's like you want to tell a story that really can pull on people's heartstrings in a good way, We
talk about alchemy on the show and how when we bring people on, it's not necessarily apparent what the connection will be, but we have a feeling that when we put these two together, there will be a theme, like a through line. And Coach Woodard found it. Telling kids to always stay true to who you are dovetails so nicely with Kevin's message, and it's such a challenge navigating the adult-controlled world.
And to that end, what a great time to drag Kevin back into the stream.
Drag him back.
What do you think, Rocker? What do you think?
Oh my gosh. First of all, Kimberly, brava. I'm slow clap that. Like that was.
Oh, thank you. But you know what?
You have such a pleasant voice too. You have such a pleasant voice. Like it's really lovely and endearing the way you sing. And yeah, I was jotting down notes as you were sharing some of your insights. And once again, Kerry, you said alchemy. So that's one of my favorite books. The Alchemist is one of my favorite books. I always have it nearby because The Alchemist is about personal legend, right? And creating your personal legend. And Kimberly, I mean, what an amazing decision you made, but you're also modeling for your kids. Like they're watching you take something.
By the way, that book is literally, I'm not kidding you. If I
The Alchemist,
my bedroom, it's sitting right beside my bed. I have it right on my nightstand.
How's that for alchemy, everybody?
Yeah.
Humble brag. I spent a week with Paulo Coelho at his home in Paris.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, that helps me make a less humble, brag, because I only hung out with him for an hour or two, but we were at this conference together and he walks over and he says hi to me and I don't know who he is. Sorry, I know who he is. I don't know this is him. So we're talking, we're chatting, whatever. And then when I said who, and then he says his name. I was like, oh, I said, hey, great to meet you. This man has a Guinness Book of World Record for the book translated into more language.
And you're like, I wrote a book about trust.
No, it's worse than this. It's worse than this. He says, have you read The Alchemist? And I said, nope. And he goes, why? And I said, I hate parables. I think parable books are stupid. Wow. I'm saying this to this guy.
to the Alchemist, right?
He laughed and laughed and laughed and rubbed his belly. And I think that's why we ended up kind of sparking an instant friendship, because he's so used to people like, oh my God, Paulo Coelho.
That's exactly what Kevin sounded like when he met him, right?
I'm
Kevin?
glad you spent a week with him.
Yeah.
Sorry, everybody. Fan service to Paulo.
Wow.
But not his dumb book.
So so we've talked about alchemy. Then I went over to your website and I was pulling together notes and everything, and I saw the quote from him about how wonderful you are, and I was like, well, author and alchemist, and that's your endorsement. For coming on the show.
Well, I love the Kimberly. That's so crazy, right? You can't, as you can't make this stuff up, right? I mean, you can't. That's crazy that you
Kimberly,
can go right
Instagram
to
it.
your nightstand and you have it, right?
Seriously,
Which I think is so brilliant.
It's literally on my nightstand.
Instagram it later for us.
I'm totally going to.
Everybody, go check out our Instagram later, right? You say, don't talk about it, be about it. Get that on Instagram.
That's
well
Kevin,
done.
I'm going to go out and get your book, because
I appreciate that.
I'm going to give one to each of my books too. No, seriously, it's and you know what? Great for adults. Everything that you're saying in there, it's there's so much going on in the world right now, and we all need to hear that. It doesn't matter how old you are. I mean, this is great for adults too. I need it for me.
Yeah.
It's really hard to want to stay the course a lot of times too, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's really, you got to keep refueling.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Refueling. Yep. That's right.
Yeah, that's well said. And 93 made me think of, because you said the gas station, I thought about 93 octane. I don't know why, but I just went right there to 93 octane.
Yes.
And you were saying, give me some of that 93. I'm like, yeah, because that's got the high octane. That's about that juice. So I was thinking that also.
I love
it. Wow.
That's right.
Neither one of you looks your age. The sunblock is involved here, or is it just like a spiritual, mental thing?
Yeah, maybe I look
you said your inside's reflected on your outside.
That's true.
All right, we have two more things to do when we get out of here. Person of the day. I just saw one that made me. I have to do it because I don't think he's been person of the day either. Rob Hatch, author of the book Attention, making fun of me. It's super expensive. It's a dad joke that Chris can't help repeating at every holiday meal. Well, Rob, go out and get yourself a damn apple. Totally.
Rob, go out and get yourself a new job.
You're fired. So that's that. So I'm still thinking of all the stuff we were just talking about. Like, I'm in a time delay. Here's a question. What goes in your backpack? This is the question that we ask every single guest, which is, can be something physical, can be something very metaphorical. And it's just got to be something small and simple. It's like a Twitter level answer. It's only 280 characters. But what goes in that backpack for the next 5 years to make everybody a lot more successful? Let me start with singer Kimberly Dawn today. That's
a really good question, you guys. There's so many things that I would need to kind of put in there. I want to say this because it's actually, I use this all the time. Fearlessness, because I always say fear is what holds us back from doing anything. I look back at when I was 18, deciding I was going to move out to LA. I had no idea. Like I said, I grew up on a farm, and I just sometimes I just jump in to do things and I'm not really thinking about it. But if I let the fear if I let the fear take over, it'll hold me back from doing anything I want to do. So I wouldn't even be where I am right now. See, I can't even speak where I am.
It's very early.
If I let the fear take over, and believe me, it's very easy. Fear can take over at any given time. So I'd be taking fearlessness with me, because I need to continue to live my life and not let the fear take over, because it could paralyze me. It literally, you know. And then I would take a journal with me, because I like to write, you know, journal and pen. I love to write. There's something about pen to paper. And I say that all the time, even when I'm writing a song, just to be able to write pen to paper. I don't know. There's something about that.
There is. We talked about that when you're writing goals down. There's something about the physical act of writing it down versus typing it somehow that makes it a little more powerful somehow.
Kinesthetic learning. It's the bomb. No one says bomb anymore. Kevin, Carroll, what goes in the backpack?
Dad.
Grit,
Grit,
grace, gratitude, and magic. So grit, you got to have some fight. I like the idea that Kimberly was just saying, right? That's that fearlessness, right? That ability to fight for something. The idea of grace, right? Just always showing up, right? In a very empathetic and generous way. Gratitude, look, as my grandfather said, when you see the light of day, that's your gift, AKA the present. So what are you going to do with that? And so I think as he also would say, it's better to be seen than viewed. So that was always another thing. So he would say that too. Hey, you saw the other day, better to be seen than viewed. And so I think you should be grateful for that. When you get to see the light of day, what are you going to do with it? And a little bit of magic, right? I think we need to suspend belief sometimes and just believe that anything is possible, like we did when we were kids. And I think that can serve you well throughout your entire life.
I'm all here for it.
Wow.
It's interesting, all the comments that came back about fear. I was immediately thinking about a song lyric, because I'm me. And I was thinking about the fact that the song I Alone by Live, the very last part of the chorus, he says, fear is not the end of it. And I always thought, like, I don't really understand what he's getting at there. But it's really funny, because listening to everybody talk this morning, whatever time of day you're watching this, fear is not the end of it. You feel the fear, and then you do something. That's what you got to do. How we get there. Grit, gratitude, and magic. That's a good pile in there.
And grace. I felt grace was in there, right?
Yeah.
Grit, grace, gratitude, and magic. I noticed, because it was like G, not G.
Yes.
There's a G in
by
magic.
Design.
Of course it is.
Well, comedians always do the law of three. So by throwing a fourth in, you've already broken the covet.
You're so fussy.
You know, I was just thinking about it. It's pouring outdoors where I am. And, you know, look at the sunshine we get to bring anyway on the backpack show. You know who appreciates sunshine like that is my grandmother. The only time I ever saw her mad